Hey guys, welcome to another brand new episode of Technology where today we are talking about Micromax, who's apparently making a comeback with two new phones. We're talking about AMD releasing new processors and graphics cards. And other than that, we also have an update on Among Us. Apparently the game is coming out with a brand new update. So here are your hosts for today, Amarto along with
Ananthan.
So let's get started.
Micromax is planning to make a comeback into the Indian smartphone scene with their new in-series smartphones. And under the in-series smartphones, they are launching two new smartphones, which is the Micromax In 1B and the Micromax Note 1. So these are basically budget-oriented smartphones, not like what Micromax used to do, which are budget, but they are like very value for money and very aggressive specs and all. But these are like okay-ish budget smartphones. And let's talk about the specs.
Yeah, so basically, guys, they are now trying to target the under 10k range with both these phones. So the starting off with the Micromax In 1B. So that's starts at 6,999. That's going to be a direct competitor to the Redmi 9. So it has the same Helio G35 processor, a 13 plus 2 megapixel camera to the back. It does have an upgraded selfie camera, so 8 megapixel instead of 5 megapixel on the Redmi. It has the same 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and I think this might be a big deal for some. It has a Type-C port instead of a micro USB port.
That is actually a good thing under this segment.
Yeah.
Because most of the phones, other than the Redmi 9 Prime.
Yeah, and there are a few Nokias also that do come with Type-C ports, but mostly you don't get.
Mostly there are no decent phones with the Type-C port. And I think the biggest selling point here for Micromax is the India factor, right?
Yes.
But to be fair, we don't know exactly where they are sourcing the materials, where they are assembling it, and we don't even know if it's made in India. Like according to like what happened in Twitter was, like people called out Micromax CEO Rahul Sharma on how the smartphones are made, and he just replied that we have two manufacturing plants in India, and I think they are manufacturing all the phones in that plants, but
here's my question. Are they manufacturing plants or are they assembling plants?
Mostly assembling plants, because there are not many manufacturing plants in India. Mostly, even what Foxconn does in India is assembling, right?
Yes, exactly.
And most of the parts are sourced from outside of India. So I'm guessing it is assembled in India, but still, can you call it an Indian smartphone though?
I don't know. I mean, is the design entirely Indian? I mean, it's a very generic design, so I don't think anyone can call them out on it, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I don't really. I mean, I understand the sentiment they're trying to, invoke in people, but I don't really get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming back to the specs, at 6,999 it is a 232 gig version, whereas the Redmi, it starts from 799, but it comes with a 464 gig version. And we do have a higher 4GB RAM version of the 1B as well. It comes with 128 gigs of, 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. And then coming then let's move on to the Note 1, right?
Yeah, Note 1 is their like higher end. You cannot call it a flagship, but it's a higher end phone. And it comes with a bigger display, which is the 6.7 inch panel, and
it's also full HD because guys, I don't think we mentioned before, but that was a 720p screen.
Yeah, that was an HD plus screen, and this is a full HD plus. And it comes with a
MediaTek G85 processor, quad cameras, 48 megapixel main, 5 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel depth, and 2 megapixel macro. Our second news of the day takes us back 10 years, back to the golden age, where, as Mr. Mobile would say, phones were fun. So this is a prototype of a Sony Vaio, not a Sony Vaio laptop, but a Sony Vaio phone. Okay, so guys, for those of you who might not be in the loop, Vaio was Sony's line of laptops. They were mostly ultrabooks. They didn't focus much on gaming, so it was mostly lightweight ultrabooks. They were designed fabulously. Like as a kid, I wanted a Vaio. If I saw someone with a Vaio, I was like, damn.
Yeah, Vaios were cute. Like they're thin and light laptops. They're like super sleek like MacBooks, but not as expensive as MacBooks, but they were still expensive.
They were still pretty expensive, but then they had like, they did RGB before RGB was cool.
Yeah.
Like I remember this Vaio that came with a blue rim around it, and every time you received a notification, there would be a light that would just dance along the rim. It's kind of like I don't know if you remember the Xperia U.
Yeah, Xperia UL.
Yeah, so it had a rim, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like the same. So yeah. Anyway, the cool thing about this is basically it is a very old phone running on Android Eclair. So it has physical keys, but not just physical navigation keys. It has a slide out keyboard. And the hinge mechanism here, it's kind of like, it's not like, the normal ones. So yes, it does slide out flat, but then there's a second stage for the hinge where it slides out and assumes an inclined position. And the back of the phone, there are like 4 small rubber feet. So it kind of just transforms into a mini laptop.
Okay.
And you can just, comfortably type on it. It's like, it's a better experience than typing on a Fold or even, let's say, the J8X, because we have a physical keyboard, right?
But still, like, the form factor would be so small because back in 2010, it was not okay to have a 7-inch screen, right?
Yes.
It would have been a 4-inch screen, and a keyboard that's the size of a 4-inch screen would not have been that easy to type to.
Fair enough. That would have been, a little difficult to get along with,
but it is a cool idea.
It's a cool idea, and I don't know, I want Sony to make phones like this instead of things like Sony Z1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 Pro, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. Sony naming scheme is so bad right now. I don't know. It's like even the CEO won't remember the latest phone's name, right? So the AMD Ryzen 5 5th gen benchmarks are here, and the leaked benchmarks show that it destroys the Intel i5 10th gen, and it's also by a good margin. Amato?
Yeah, so the thing is, guys, we don't really know much about the Ryzen 5th gen right now. They are going to be launched pretty soon, actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's when we'll get to know all the numbers. But till now, this is a leaked benchmark from WCCF Tech.
Yeah.
And they seem to say that the multi-core performance is as high, it's beating the 10th gen i5 by 42% in multi-core and around 25% in single core. So guys, till now what we have seen mostly from Ryzen chips is that yes, they are beating their Intel counterparts, but not when it comes to single core performance. It has mostly been, they have been offering more cores, more threads, which is why they have been scoring more on multi-threaded performance on R15, Cinebench R15 and stuff like that. But this time it seems like even the single core performance has increased by a big margin. In fact, it's so big that it's actually competing with the 10th gen i7 as well. And all of this is very interesting, especially given that they are consuming almost half the wattage. So the i5 10600K, that's the 10th gen i5, that consumes around 125 watts give or take, whereas this 5th gen Ryzen, it's supposed to be a 65 to 60 watt TDP chip. So consuming half the power, 25% better single core performance, 42% better multi-core performance. This looks like a straight home run for AMD, right?
Yeah, Intel is not having a good 2 years, right?
No.
On the topic of AMD destroying other companies on benchmarks, AMD's new graphics card, the AMD RX 6800, also destroys Nvidia's RTX 3070 on benchmarks, and it's by a huge margin.
Yeah, so these are again leaked benchmarks, and I kind of feel like, guys, take this with a pinch of salt, because what happens whenever a new product gets leaked is we see the benchmarks that are favoring the product, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously AMD doesn't want you to see benchmarks that favor Nvidia. So yeah, these are, I mean, okay, it might be better than the 3070 in some areas. The 3070 again obviously will push back with, especially RTX enabled games. DLSS is a big thing, but right now from what it seems hardware wise, the big Navi architecture. It's not just going to be awesome in the consoles, because yes, both the PS5 as well as the new Xbox, they're powered by the Big Navi GPUs. And what seems like the 6800 and the 6900 XT, these are the two new AMD cards. They are also getting ready to take it to Nvidia when it comes to graphics in terms of raw power, at least in terms of teraflops and all that stuff. Now, how well is it optimized for games? Does Nvidia pull ahead with its RTX? Because yes, even ray tracing is coming to these new AMD cards, right? Consoles are also going to have it as well, but we don't know a lot because again, these haven't been seeded out to reviewers. Most of us don't have a card right now, so we can't run comparative benchmarks, but right now at least it looks hopeful for AMD, both on CPU as well as GPU front. Moving away from the PC space and back to smartphones. Well, not really smartphones, smartwatches. Realme has released their smartwatch S in Pakistan, and it appears that, according to some tweets by Maruv, said that the Realme Watch S as well as the S Pro is coming to India soon. So we don't know much about the S Pro at the moment, but we do know a lot about the Realme Watch S. It comes with, a circular screen. So what do you think of the design?
Like, I prefer, I know like the UI elements will look a little awkward on a circular display, but I prefer a circular display over the generic square shape because like I'm more used to like analog watches and like the Motorola 360 obviously, and like it looks more ergonomic to me on my hand. And so basically the S Pro, they just showed it off on the Berlin IFA 2020 and they didn't launch it. The S Pro is basically a bigger Realme watches. So the Realme watches, they actually launched it for 15,000 Pakistan rupee, which is basically 7k on India, 7,000 rupees. And I think for 7k it is a good deal because the Redmi watch or the Mi Watch Revolt, right? It is called Mi Watch Revolt. That launched at like 14k in India, right?
Yeah, but then okay, I mean, both these watches I won't really buy because they don't have Android One, right? So it's still running the custom OS software developed by Realme. And I mean, there are a few improvements here. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a bad watch per se. It still does, do notifications from most apps. It is launching with 10 watch faces with promises for about 100 to be added soon. But again, no way to add custom watch faces like we can do with the Mi Band. We also have an auto brightness sensor that's integrated into the screen.
That is pretty useful.
So that's something I think a lot of budget watches don't have, and it's a pretty useful option. So
when it comes to fitness, they have also like paid a lot of attention to fitness, as in they have an SpO2 sensor like the Realme Watch and a PPG heart rate sensor, and also there are 16 sports modes, and which include basically stationary bike and rowing machine, which I don't know most people would need, but it is there. And there is also a sleep type monitor.
So basically it seems like, again, more like a fitness tracker. And that's where my question, that's where my like all my problems come in, because again, paying 7k for a smartwatch, really great deal. Paying 7k for a fitness tracker
with a bigger display, it's basically a fitness tracker
with a bigger display, right? Like, at that point you might as well just go Fitbit.
In other news, last week we talked about how the Oppo Reno 5 Pro or the Oppo Find X3 would support the Snapdragon 875 for the first time, and now we have news that the Nokia 10 PureView would support the 875 processor, the Snapdragon 875, and it would come with a sapphire glass display.
So basically there's not a lot of news that we have because apparently this device is still in a prototype. So again, lots of features that can be changed. But what we do know so far is that since it's a PureView, it's going to come with a 108 megapixel camera, it's going to have 8K recording, and basically, I mean, what do you think of the PureView branding?
Honestly, I like the PureView phones. Like, I actually bought a PureView when it was on sale for like 14k on Flipkart. Like, not the
Windows PureView?
No, the old PureView, the one with the 40 megapixel. The Windows also had 40 megapixel. Like the old PureView with the Symbian
Yeah, Symbian OS.
Yeah, okay, Symbian OS, and I bought it for 14K, and it was like miles ahead of the other phones' cameras, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, like people were using like the small Sony Ericssons and all, and the camera was so ahead, and I was so happy with the purchase.
Yeah.
So PureView generally translates to good camera, but
But
recently,
then the last PureView was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
when it comes to cameras. Like,
but the thing is, recently it's not about the megapixels or the sensor size, right?
Yeah.
Because Samsung had a 108 megapixel sensor, Mi had a 108 megapixel sensor, but now it's about like software and
it's come down more to how optimized it is, how algorithms are sensing the data, how they're processing it. Because right now, let's see the top phones, right?
Yeah.
iPhone for video, Pixel for photography, and both of them, they're nowhere close to the best hardware.
and the thing about Pixel is Pixel is still using the same sensor on the Pixel 2, right?
Yeah.
The Pixel 5 has the same sensor on the Pixel 2, and it still takes the
amazing photos.
amazing photos. Like you just
Even the selfies are
Yeah.
so damn good. Like, you would probably think they are taken by a DSLR or something.
yeah, it's like, and you don't even have to focus. You just point and shoot, and you get
Yeah.
a great picture all the time.
On to the next news, and this time it's not a phone that's a prototype far away in the future. This is something that's launching pretty soon. Samsung with the W21. Okay, now the W21, it's an exclusive only China phone, and it's kind of like the Galaxy Z Fold 2, but again, not quite. What do you think of it?
It's like we can call it a special edition Galaxy Z Fold 2, but like from the leaks we got from Ice Universe, the Samsung
leaker,
Samsung leaker, it is actually bigger than the Z Fold. Like otherwise it's like it looks pretty much the same, like the camera module looks the same, and it's a folding phone, of course, like the Z Fold 2, and it has a bigger display and a bigger front display also, but it seems to have a texture on it for better grip. And honestly, I like the design. It's similar to the Z Fold 2, but it is slightly different and better for me.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a bigger screen, right?
Yeah.
Especially the front screen. When we had the Z Fold 2 in our studios, we kind of felt it was a bit cramped.
Yeah,
like
it was too narrow for me.
Yeah, it was too narrow. So this doesn't solve that problem, but hey, it's a bigger screen.
Yeah, it's still usable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Speaking about special editions phone launches, OnePlus has launched their OnePlus 8T Cyberpunk 2077 special edition smartphone, and yes, the name is a little longer, but the phone actually looks cool.
Especially the camera bump, right?
Yeah,
That
it is
looks
like
amazing.
OnePlus has gone the route of embracing the camera bump.
Yeah.
It is so big, it is beautiful.
Yes, it almost looks like a car window at this point.
Yeah, and even the bottom, it is raised a little.
Yeah.
And it comes with a
ton of accessories and trinkets.
exclusive Cyberpunk accessories, trinkets, and also a special edition case.
But then, what I actually kind of am disappointed about is, always OnePlus has done this. They did the Lamborghini, they did the McLaren. I don't know. I was expecting a Pagani this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love CD Projekt Red. I love Cyberpunk 2077. I'll probably be taking a week off in December for health reasons when Cyberpunk comes out. But I mean, as good as this is, it's exciting. But I would have kind of liked them to continue the tradition.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but honestly, I like this design. But the sad part is it's not launching globally at the moment. It is China-only device, like the W21. But it is still the unboxing experience looks decent, and the accessories are fun. So if you are a fan of Cyberpunk, I think for $600, this is a good special edition phone, right?
Yeah, this is a very good special edition phone.
And this time we are talking about Apple losing their sales. And I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, actually, guys, we are working on a detailed video, and sneak peek into that video, we're trying to find out if the iPhone 11 might actually be better than the iPhone 12. And again, more sneak peek news, but in a few instances, like when it comes to loading up games, the iPhone 11 does beat out the iPhone 12. Yes, it's by like one frame or two frames, so like 1 by 60 or 1 by 30th of a second, but
but to be fair,
beating the iPhone out, right?
Yeah, but to be fair, it is like pushing half the pixels, right? The iPhone 11 had a 720p LCD screen, and this is a full HD plus, like a really good
It's a really good OLED screen, and there's a huge difference in the PPI, 360 versus 420.
Yeah, we have sidetracked from the news, sorry guys.
Yes.
But the news is actually that iPhone 12 sales wipes 430 billion from Apple's market cap.
Yeah.
So if you don't know yet, iPhones sell really well. It doesn't matter what Apple launches, even if the 7s, the 7, even if how iterative the update is, the iPhones will sell really well in the US and globally. But this time around, like the sales are like...
The sales have been dipping, especially maybe it might be because, what we have seen thus far historically is in the beginning of the sales, the Pro and the Pro Max variants sell more, and in the long-term view, the normal iPhone sells out a lot more.
Like the 10, the last year the sales were like the iPhone 11 sold really well at the beginning, and the Pro and the Pro Max sold really well.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, the iPhone Pro sold really well.
The Pro Max and the Pro sold really well. But over time, the XR and the 11
like they're actually the most selling iPhones last year, right?
Exactly.
And this time around, we don't know why.
But this time
because
around,
of the charger?
Maybe because of the charger.
I don't think so,
because the Pro Max isn't here.
Yeah.
They haven't launched the Pro Max yet, so the iPhone 12, like I guess when you take out the two biggest reasons why people get an iPhone. Number one, people who want the best in everything, they'll get the iPhone 12 Pro Max. People who want a small phone, they want the iPhone 12 mini. So now if you cut that out, you're just leaving out people who get an iPhone because it's convenient for them, for the ecosystem, and they might not actually feel the reason to upgrade from the 11 to the 12, right?
Yeah, on first view the update is like squared off edges and no charger, right?
Exactly. So it might not be worth it for some, so I'm guessing that's why they have their initial sales, they haven't been as good as they thought it would be. But let's see. Apple has always traditionally picked up sales. An iPhone has never been a flop, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Anyway, on to the last news for the week, and that is the update about Among Us.
Yeah.
So Among Us has actually, rolled out a new update, and the biggest feature for me here is anonymous voting.
Yeah, because if you guys haven't played Among Us, it's a TTT, like Trouble in Terrorist Town kind of game where there are multiple people playing together and there is one imposter or a terrorist.
Yeah.
Who the goal of the group is to find the terrorist or the imposter, and the goal of the terrorist is to kill everyone.
Yes.
Or destroy the ship, right?
Exactly.
It's a fun game if you play with friends, and we have been playing a lot in the office, right?
We have. And I think anonymous voting, it actually sometimes it becomes pretty easy to basically, even if you vote out the wrong person, sometimes it's between him and her.
Yeah.
Not him and her, rather it's between two people, and if you vote someone out and they're not the imposter, you immediately call another emergency meeting and vote the other person out because they are obviously the imposter, right?
Yeah, anonymous voting is actually a good thing.
It adds another layer.
It is not good for the crewmates, it's good for the imposters, right?
Yes. And it adds another layer of mistrust into everything.
Yeah.
But then I guess it would kind of reduce the arguments. There won't be any more. Why did you vote for me?
Yeah. If you are voting me out, I'll vote you out the next time kind of arguments, right?
Yes.
Other than that, we have new taskbar modes. So basically there are 3 modes now. It's always, meeting, and invisible. So basically when you are an imposter, you can see the taskbar and see how much of the task is completed. So basically if the crewmates complete all the tasks, you will lose the game. So you will have an idea how much time you have to kill everyone or sabotage missions and other things. And with this mode, always mode, it is gonna be the same. But with meeting mode, the imposter is not able to see the taskbar unless a meeting is happening. So it's gonna be a little hard for the imposter to figure out how much progress the crewmates have made during the game, and he can only like get an idea of the taskbar when there is a meeting. And the third mode is invisible, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically the imposter cannot see the taskbar at all, and it's gonna be a little hard.
But then, to be fair, with invisible, does it mean, meeting or invisible, does it mean the other players cannot see it as well?
Like as much as how much I have read, I think the crewmates can see the taskbar.
Yeah, because that was one of the most important ways you find out someone is an imposter, right?
Yeah.
If you're pretending to just stand in front of the comms room and say, hey, I'm swiping the card, people will now get to call you out.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of that, now if you sabotage the communications, you will also delete all the security logs. So guys, if you don't know, in certain levels, whenever you go across a security camera, the camera logs that, okay, red went there, and this can come in really clutch if you know where all the vents lead, and if someone pops up somewhere they shouldn't be, like they haven't crossed the security cam but you see them returning, that can be a clear indication, okay, they are an imposter. So right now that's one little edge that they have gotten. So this makes me quite interesting.
So the update is basically 2 new updates for the crewmates and 1 new update for the imposters.
Right, but then they're pretty powerful updates. So let's see how it turns out.
And let's play it and we'll tell you guys our reviews in the next FTJ.
So let's end the episode here. Let's play Among Us.
We are going to play Among Us. So it was nice talking to you guys about tech for like probably a half an hour or something, and I think you guys enjoyed the same too, and we are signing off now to play Among Us. This is Ananthan
along with Amartya saying goodbye for the week. Have a nice one, guys.
Bye bye.